Coming up on this edition of VCU In Depth, documentaries from students in VCU's Robinson School of Media and Culture.
We'll start off by looking at the great need for a technological education in the Commonwealth.
And then we'll discover an organization in Richmond that is literally saving young lives.
VCU In Depth begins right now. Hello, and welcome to this edition of VCU In Depth. I'm Ilaria Jones.
And I'm Alexis Carey. Thanks for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture. Technology is constantly on the rise. Knowledge about coding or programming is needed more than ever.
College degrees in computer science, on average, are some of the highest paying right out of college.
Yet less than 3% of college graduates major in computer science. Why is this number so low, and what is being done to fill these jobs?
Digital Divide is a documentary that explores why there is such a huge gap in computer literacy and what is being done to fill it.
If you can read this, then you are literate. But what about this? Chances are you can't. Only a few of us can. Coding, or programming, is a language that we are exposed to every day, hidden behind buttons and screens. There is a gap in basic literacy right here in America. Computer literacy, or digital literacy, means having basic understanding of programming languages and computers. This skill has become necessary in the 21st century, but very few of us have taken it upon ourselves to learn it. It isn't lack of access. More than 80% of adults under 65 have access to the internet via smartphone or computer. Millions of people are connected to each other constantly, and programming has become a part of our everyday lives. Despite this, it seems like America has little interest in computer science. Only 1 in 10 American high schools offer classes in computer science, and only 1 in 20 offer AP exams. Less than 3% of college graduates major in computer science, and the numbers are falling. Why does it seem like America has no interest in making our next generation computer literate?
One of the things we find in college is students that already know about computer science will seek out the classes, but that leaves out a lot of students that otherwise might not have access to it.
I was a late adapter to it, and so I think some things are a little bit more challenging to me in trying to understand the logical blocks. I think really what it is it's fear. I think the older we get, people have a fear of trying and learning.
For me, being computer illiterate meant that I wasn't scared to try new things. I think one of the things that's really important about learning how to use a computer or learning how to create on a computer, which is kind of like that next step, is that it gets you over that hurdle of being fearful of things.
I couldn't imagine starting computer science in college as for a first time. Not necessarily as a major, but just getting into computers for the first time in college. But I don't know that that's reality in today's world. You know, growing up, not everyone needed to be on computers all day, every day. Computer science and which is a wide term, as we know. You know, that's everything from web to making airplanes not fall out of the sky to everything, you know, all kinds of different fields. But computer science is behind and it's the core of everything that we see around each other, around ourselves today. You know, from the phones that we hold and call each other to the transit that we use, to the cars we drive in, to the lights coming on when you get to the building. I mean, that's computer science behind every single thing that we see.
We see that the computers are everywhere, right? They're in the camera, they're in the car. So kids actually are exposed to computers from a very early age. Kids tend to use the novel things and to jump onto them, and probably they know better than any teacher would. Using computers for daily interactions, you know, like in social networks, I think that the educational system will always play catch up for that.
It seems like the problem is in the education system. It comes down to a lack of knowledge. Without being taught programming in primary school, they are less likely to pursue a career in that area. In an age where so few of us are computer literate, we tend to take many things for granted.
It's something just like any new language that you learn. It can be a little bit frustrating at first. It takes a lot of practice. You are going to make mistakes, and that's just part of the process.
I feel like if we can connect with children at a younger age, it is more intuitive for them to pick up and interact with and carry throughout their experiences instead of learning it and forgetting it.
We come up with cool lesson plans, just get the kids involved with computers, and we teach them a lot of the core concepts behind like computer programming and kind of the backbone of the machine. It's just like another language. A lot of schools are focusing on getting foreign languages in a young age. It helps rewire your brain to think more logically. It's also just a very important concept to know. A lot of jobs are now requiring some base computer knowledge for any entry-level application.
Virginia, last time we pulled the data, had over 30,000 jobs in the state open right now that cannot be filled. You know, we are taught all the time to think about Silicon Valley and Austin, Texas, and all of those places when it comes to these kinds of jobs. But the fact is, Virginia has the highest concentration of jobs in the entire country in this field. Another thing that isn't really captured in those 30,000 jobs that are open, those are just pure computer science jobs. That's not even including the jobs that require computer science along with some other domain specialty. I think Hollywood a lot of times shows it as sort of the whiz kid who's off on his own solving a problem. They depict people who work in computer science as sort of the stereotypical geek in the basement who's a little bit creepy. Coders exist in every industry. Maybe you're working as a chemist, or you have a biology degree, or you're working in music, or any of these other fields, sociology, human resources, all of these different fields now. A lot of the data management they do is basically coding. So you may not be a computer scientist or a software engineer per se, but coding may be a part of how you get your job done.
The internet has changed the way we live. There are new jobs that didn't exist 20 years ago, and the trend is continuing. Research projects that there will be 1.4 million jobs in computer science by 2020, and only 400,000 computer science graduates. Computer science jobs pay 75% more than the national median, and 2/3 of these jobs are in fields other than information technology.
I did websites for a while. I did that for several years. Not until I was actually in grad school got into like the robotics kind of physical computing with Arduinos. I was a kid that grew up breaking all my parents' appliances without telling them, so then I could take their parts, take the parts from them. This might sound cheesy, but just possibilities are endless, pretty much. There's so many different parts that you can put together. It's like Frankensteining, like pretty much anything you can find.
For me, I've always just been super interested in things that are out there like technology. And so I was always the person that was trying to push the limit. Like when we would go to computer class and everybody would be typing on the Mac, at the time I was the only guy that knew PC at school. So I was always in DOS getting Flight Simulator pulled up. I didn't get to be there at the turning point of computers as far as the personal computer revolution, but I'm here now for the 3D printing revolution. And so for me, I love being on the end of that trend. I think that's really important, is that you have to, in your lifetime, find something that you can champion, that you can be part of the movement. And so that's why I've always been attracted to technology and now 3D printing and personal manufacturing. I think when you say I have enough knowledge to be dangerous, that's a perfect middle area for you to start with, because it means that you understand capabilities, which I think is the hardest thing. When people don't understand what things can do, they don't know how they can use those things to their full advantage.
The process of creating software, designing it, thinking through the problems, developing it, is really just strengthening critical thinking skills. We shouldn't think of them in this bubble of technology, because they're really just how to do good work. It doesn't matter that it's being done in code or you're designing in Photoshop. You're thinking about how a human uses a thing, and that's just good design. That's just good product development.
It used to be a rule that we wouldn't hire a designer unless they knew how to hand code and had a certain element to that, because early on we found that those people thought different. They're usually a bit more efficient. They're able to solve problems quicker. They understand approaches in a unique way.
And I think that everybody should program and design and think through those problems, because they just make you better rounded. They help you to think.
A good designer mixed with a great engineer, and the learning that takes place in that environment is just exciting to see.
Digital literacy is a skill that anyone can use. It can get you a better job and give you a better understanding of the world around you. Learning the basics of programming is the vital first step that many students never get. But things are changing. Earlier this year, Virginia passed House Bill 1054, which allows students taking computer science courses in high school to count them as science or math credits. Parents need to be aware of the value of digital literacy, and students should be encouraged to think about a career in computer science. Instead of learning to speak another language, consider learning to type one.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an assistant professor at VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for this documentary class. With me this evening are the Digital Divide producers, Sean Ankerson and John Dillon and Brianna Jackson. Glad you could be here. Sean, let me ask you, this is, it's a little bit more of a down-to-earth topic than a lot of the students choose. What made you choose this particular topic?
I just thought it was an issue that was important, and it's not talked about as much. I mean, you'll see a million articles on the internet about, gay rights or, racial discrimination, and this is something that, overseas in China, there are students taking tests scoring better than America. We're very low on the scores in SATs and standardized tests, so I just thought that we need to up education in things like programming, things that are in the 21st century that haven't been here 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. John, I know there's always things you learn when you produce any documentary, but I would imagine with something like this, especially with all those great facts and figures you had in there, that there were some surprises you found.
Yes, one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that Virginia has such a high number of jobs in computer science that cannot be filled. And we're starting to see that we're taking steps in the right direction to fill those positions, and hopefully, we can see a different trend going into the future.
Tell me a little bit about one of you about the graphics that you did. I thought you did a nice job on those. Was that all just up here, or did you see something that prompted you?
That was we used a program called After Effects to do the animation, and basically we had a voice actor come in, do the narration, and then we thought it would be cool to have animated words and pictures go along with the voice. So that was something we learned on YouTube videos, and we're able to put into the computer in real time, and I think it turned out pretty well.
Brianna, what about you? What was your favorite part of making this documentary?
I would say my favorite part with filming was definitely going to the Martin Agency and meeting the technologists, John and Jeff, I believe their name was, and just seeing what they made. They showed us a 3D printer, which I've never seen before, which is really cool. They showed us the party bot, which was cool. It was just really nice to see, see and hear what they've learned and what they know so much since they were a little kid, and where they took their knowledge since they were, at a young age.
Okay, great. I've been speaking with Robertson School students Sean Ankerson and John Dillon and Brianna Jackson. So good job on the documentary, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Oglesby. Over the past few years, issues concerning gay rights have been at the forefront of our society.
Although we live in a world much more open and accepting of the many gender identities, life can be tough for young people who fall into minority categories.
But there's an organization that helps teens with these difficult issues, the Richmond Organization for Sexual Minority Youth, or ROSME.
ROSME provides opportunities for support from their peers in a safe environment, as we see in our next documentary called A Safe Place.
ROSME is a space where youth are safe to be who they are, to ask questions, to engage with other people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or are questioning their gender identity or sexual orientation. A lot of times, these youth come in and the world isn't so kind to them sometimes. Sometimes it is, but as a whole, we live in a world that doesn't have a whole lot of space for conversations around people whose identities don't work within the norms.
I'm Marceline, and I'm 17, and I prefer feminine pronouns, if that's okay. Yeah.
I remember feelings of sexual invasion from a very young age, and consistent and kind of like stuff you'd read about, kind of type deal, emotional and psychological abuse from then on.
If you want to imagine you wake up one morning. Can I say penis? You have a penis, and everyone that knows you knows that, and from that point on expects you to act and like dress and look and sound ways that are typical of guys.
My gender identity has always been kind of an issue growing up, especially starting puberty, of course, and being put in boxes automatically based on puberty. So I automatically felt myself being isolated and put in this third kind of outside the boxes, and that really like propelled, you know, isolation and traumatizing and all these things.
I think we'll do 2 and then 3. I'll let y'all select. But we have a computer up there and a computer in here that are set up with just, it's a page of different like LGBT icons that are listed, that they kind of present every day. And it's a pretty wide range of different people, and they've had them historically, so they bring new ones in every, 30 new people every year, different people every year. But I thought we would spend some time first looking at that, like just kind of like looking at different people, a lot of whom you've probably not heard before. But looking in, and then we would come back to the group and share with one another.
I think this is the biggest part of why I do feel so comfortable with who I am, because I have a community of peers who help support me, and without that, I don't know how I would have done it, because here, there's at least one place in Richmond where I can come to feel like completely supported and accepted and not have to worry about constantly like putting up a wall and being on guard.
Roseme helped me in ways that I was not receiving anywhere else. Roseme gave me a place to explore who I was, and without that, I don't know if I would have made it as far as I have so far.
I have a lot of severe mental health issues, and Roseme has really helped me deal with that and really helped me cope with that. And I've met people through here that have gone through the same thing and who have gotten better. And I can honestly say I would probably be dead without Roseme.
There's something really invaluable about this kind of group in which you don't know whether someone coming in the door has a home or not, or has tried to, take attempts on their own life. I mean, it's the kind of place where those people come.
I know now, more so than I did before, that people don't really think that about me. They don't really think that I'm this person who just wants to die over and over and over again and just wants to kill myself, and I'm only doing it for attention. And I mean, there are days when I just can't get up. And ever since coming to Roseme, those days have gotten fewer and fewer.
Going to a mainly, I guess, conservative school, a lot of people say things against being gay. So when I got outed at school, I went through a phase of a lot of bullying. And at first it was really hard, but then with a lot of support, it got better. But I think that's the biggest thing that was faced.
There are some people who, coming from a very religious background can be pretty mean about sexual orientation and gender identity. I'm still not out in any way with my gender. Yeah, it can be pretty difficult. People use lots of slurs at my school. I get like made fun of sometimes, and people don't like it when I'm dating a girl, stuff like that.
I think more than anything, the things that I love about my job is that I get to remind the youth that that they are awesome as a whole. That's one of my favorite things, is that I get to just sort of, and also that like I get to say you're awesome, which is funny, and a funny thing, because who gets to say that in their job, and who gets to hear that, when they go anywhere. So I kind of appreciate that, but I think also helping them recognize that they do have the insight and the awareness and the it's like the chutzpah, like they do have within them the strength to really decide how they want to engage in the world.
I think in my adult life, I will definitely reflect on how these people felt when they were young, and I would really like to help out with that, and I would really like to get involved with this more and being able to contribute more.
Yeah, ever since graduating college, it's been really important to me to give back to Rosemead because they gave so much to me. I've been on their junior board for the past 4 or 5 years, and we just kind of do a bunch of different activities that support the organization, including the Run for Rosemead, which is our big fall fundraiser, and we get bunches of people to run the HCA 8K in support of the organization. I always tell people that I thought I had a really great support system, great family, great friends growing up. But when I went to Rosemead, I saw youth that didn't have such a great upbringing, and it gave me a good perspective. So I was thankful that Rosemead was there for them, and I was also there to hear their perspective, and we could kind of help each other growing up.
And if you could describe Rosemead in like 1 or 2 words, how would you describe it?
A safe place.
God, just like a lifesaver. I know so many people who just Rosemead is kind of, well, either figuratively or literally just saved their lives. It's really difficult growing up in the South as an LGBTQ kid. And Rosemead just doesn't completely fix it, of course, that's impossible, but makes it so much easier.
There's so much about Rosemead that just really can't be put into 1 or 2 words. I'll keep thinking of these phrases like safe space, community, but those don't even really capture the feeling at all. So I guess that's the closest I can get, a safe space, a community, love and acceptance, but those are so like par for the course when Rosemead has set the bar way too high for that.
Home. Just home.
And we're here with the student producers of the Safe Place documentary, Chelsea Hansen and Alexis Manley. Glad you could be here with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was really a moving conclusion to that documentary. Did you find that when you were there shooting that?
We definitely did. I actually found myself getting emotional many times when they were sharing their stories with us and just sharing their hardships. I didn't realize how hard it could be to be an LGBTQ youth.
Well, what made you choose this particular topic for your documentary in the first place?
Well, originally, I just noticed that there was so much in the media about gay rights and gay marriage, and I was thinking about how much progression that there was, but doing some research, we found this great organization, and we found that there actually is a lot of progress that still needs to be made, and there are actually a lot of issues that these kids still have to deal with.
I'm sure there are. So Chelsea, talking about that, what were some of the challenges that you faced doing this documentary?
Well, the challenges with this documentary were when you're facing a very touchy subject, it's really, it depends on like how far do you want to go with the information you're presented. We were told a lot of stories with a lot of in-depth details, and there's really a line, like if you want to go over the line, how much do you go into that line? So it's balancing.
And for people who might be wondering, we did have some people who were under 18, but their parents were all a part of this and were all supportive of them being a part of this documentary, right?
Yeah, and we also thought that would be a challenge too, having a 15-year-old talk, but the parents were okay, the kids were very enthusiastic about everything, so that actually went very smoothly.
Well, you know, as I mentioned, I was surprised by how heartfelt a lot of them spoke about this organization and about their lives. Did you find you had to talk to them for a while to get them to open up like that, or did they just do it naturally?
They did it really naturally. We actually came in and asked them if anybody wanted to talk to us, and they just volunteered. We didn't have to like kind of nudge anybody in and talk or anything. They just came in through the door.
I will say at first, there were a couple people that were a little more hesitant, but once the ball got rolling, they became more and more enthusiastic about talking with us and more and more open with us and sharing their most personal stories.
Okay.
When anyone sees a camera, you're kind of like...
Yeah, of course. Well, good job, Alexis and Chelsea, and thanks for producing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dr. Oglesby, and all of the documentary students. That does it for the edition of VCU Indepth, and thank you for joining us. I'm Alexis Carey.
And I'm Ilaria Jones. For all of us at VCU Indepth, good night.